it stinks. You go 3 months without losing at home, then you lose twice in the same week. So we will come back tomorrow. We'll get better and get ready for our next game.
Home and in deep water in the final few weeks of the regular season.
Temple's 10-game home winning streak comes crashing down in back-to-back losses.
I'm Xavier Adams, live from the Leah Core Center. Later in the show, I'll take a look at the recent men's slump and how their injured star is impacting the team at the worst possible time.
I'm Braille Batchelor, live from the studio set. Also, later on in the show, with only about 3 weeks left in the regular season, I will discuss how the men and women are faring in the updated standings. Courts in Session is live, and it starts right now.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Courts in Session. It was an up and down week for both programs on North Broad. I'm Pat Dallahan and he's Gabriel Linington.
On the women's side, there are a lot more positives. As for the men at home, it was a struggle. The last time we were on the desk, the Owls were undefeated at home. Fast forward a week later, and Temple has a home streak moving in a different direction. An 80-74 loss against the Golden Hurricane, a team below Temple in the standings. Then 4 days later, another loss to Florida Atlantic, 83-81. These were two games that Owls really needed to get healthy on the stat sheet, but both turned into games that are pulling the Owls down at the worst time of the season.
Now to the proof, and our game highlights don't lie. The Florida Atlantic Owls flew to North Philadelphia red hot, winning 4 games in a row and 5 of their last 6. The local Owls did not have the same momentum, setting up for a very intriguing battle between the Owls on Broad and Montgomery. Sundays now belong to college hoops. Isn't that beautiful? And right out of the chute, Steve Settle came to play. He pokes the pass away and finishes the one-handed flush for his first bucket of the afternoon and the first score of the game. How about another jam? This time it comes from Trey Carroll, the two-handed flush. No one was there to play defense. Later in the first, Florida Atlantic leads by 1. Quante Berry makes a beeline for the basket and finishes the runner. And 1, Temple jumps in front. Early in the second half, an aggressive drive from Baba Miller gets stuffed at the rim. No fear, Carroll was there to clean up the scraps on the follow-up. One of his 3 offensive boards on the day. Temple up 5. Elijah Gray working on Matas Vokatitis, looking to boost the lead, and he does just that. He converts the old-fashioned three-pointer, and the Temple lead is up to 7. But holding leads has been an issue for TU all season, including on Sunday when Caleb Grill finishes this layup to put FAU ahead by 1. Florida Atlantic ends the game on a 15-6 run and hands Temple its 4th consecutive L. 5 different players finished in double digits for FAU, but it was Caleb Glenn who stole the show, finishing with 17 points on a ridiculous 7 of 11 from the floor and 3 of 5 from beyond the arc. Although Temple and FAU were neck and neck in most statistical categories, the foul discrepancy is what ultimately changed the game. Temple committed 26 personal fouls, with FAU committing 19. FAU attempted 9 more foul shots and made 7 more in the win.
I thought we competed and played hard in spurts of this game, but we got to try to eliminate some mental lapses on the defensive end, and just got to keep improving and getting better. Some really good things to take away from this game, but again, our attention to detail has got to be a little bit better. It stinks. You go 3 months without losing at home, and then you lose twice in the same week. So we will come back tomorrow. We'll get better and get ready for our next game.
Let's go back in time 4 days earlier, back in the Leah Chorus Center, Tulsa up against the Cherry and White. The first half went back and forth, both teams trading buckets as Keyston Willis floats it in for the deuce. But the Owls are able to surge, and with a Babatunde Duradola finish, Temple start cooking. And to keep it going, who else but Jamal Mashburn Jr. This is his only game in the last 4 Temple outings, with a nice reverse off the glass into the locker room by 1. Coming into the second, and Temple downhill into the corner, and again Mashburn delivering, but this time downtown. Temple made its first 5 buckets coming out of the locker room. Temple is able to get a transition bucket and some good ball movement, but it was all in vain. Tulsa rips off a 13-0 run in the second half to pull away late. Your final, 80-74. Temple gets hit with heartbreak from the Golden Hurricane. A close first half, but it was the second half where Tulsa was able to gain distance. Tulsa improved its shooting from 39% in the first half to a red-hot 72% in the second. Temple had 5 in double figures, but Mashburn was a bit rusty in his return, shooting 6 for 20 from the field. On the other side, Keyston Willis notched 19 and 7 with 2 steals on the side to bring the Golden Hurricane over the edge. This was the game that broke the home streak.
So, the losing streak is 4. Temple now finds itself free-falling in the American Conference standings. Courts in Session beat reporter Xavier Adams is live at the Liacouras Center to detail the Owls' disastrous 2-week skid. Hey, Xavier.
Thanks, Pat. This 4-game losing streak is the longest of the season for the men. This is a team that's now struggling at home, a team that's without its leading scorer, and a team that now, for the first time all season, is below the 500 mark in conference play. With this, you've got one big headache for the Owls. It's been another frustrating week for the Temple men's basketball team. Not only are the Owls still being plagued by the absence of their leading scorer, Jamal Mashburn Jr., who's missed 3 of their last 4 games, but the honeymoon at home is over. The Owls won their first 10 games this season at the Liacouras Center, but since then, they've lost their last 2, including the nail-biter on Sunday versus FAU.
Again, our attention to detail has got to be a little bit better. It stinks you go 3 months without losing at home, then you lose twice in the same week. So we will come back tomorrow, we'll get better and get ready for our next game.
Without Mashburn, the Owls look to Steve Settle III and Quante Berry to carry the load offensively, and the pair combined for 32 points. FAU took full advantage of their size and beat Temple on the boards 41-35. Their bench also outscored Temple 41-26. The hole that is left on the court when Jamal Mashburn Jr. isn't here is quite apparent for this Temple team. The Owls have lost 4 consecutive games in a row now, and this includes 2 losses in a row at home, after the Owls had won their first 10 here at the Liacouras Center. There are just 5 games left in the regular season, and right now, the Owls are struggling more than they have at any point this year. Trying to snap a 4-game losing streak and trying to do so without their leading scorer, it's not what the Owls are looking for heading into the final half of February. Temple's next chance to bounce back from this late season slide will be this Wednesday against the Charlotte 49ers. This should be a good opportunity for the Owls, as Charlotte has not been good at all this season. Temple, however, has been pretty bad on the road, with a 4-10 record when away from the Liacouras Center.
Xavier, as mentioned, the men have dropped 4 in a row. When you go back and look, how would you diagnose these losses? What's the main reason for them?
Besides the obvious void of not having Jamal Mashburn Jr., Temple has also just been having problems closing out games. In their last 2 games, they've had a lead coming out of the second half that they've let just slip through their fingers due to sloppy defense. Then there's also been the problem of rebounding. Temple's been getting outworked on the boards, and it's starting to show in the results.
So Xavier, you're talking about no Mashburn. There's been no Mashburn for the past 3 of the last 4. How does his absence affect players like Steve Settle III?
It's impacting the team in a lot more ways than you'd expect. Senior Steve Settle III said it isn't just his ability to get a bucket at any given moment and to command the ball late in the game that they miss, but it's also his leadership and his presence on the court. He's clearly a big piece of what Temple is trying to build on that locker room, and they're going to be looking to get him back as quickly as they can.
All right, Xavier. Thanks for the knowledge. But, Gabe, Temple's season has essentially been lost over the last 2 weeks. 4 losses in a row at Memphis, at USF, and 2 at home. Frankly, to a Tulsa team that is inferior. And it's been because they've been doing all the things that have been killing them all season long. No ball movement, poor shot selection. It's really been their Achilles heel all season long. They can't play without Jamal Mashburn. That's been proven, or at least they struggled to. It's really, nobody has particularly stepped up that well. Last week, you and I talked about how Zion Stanford and Quante Berry need to be the guys without Mashburn, but we haven't seen any of them.
Yeah, it's just frustrating because I don't know if you remember or not, but a few weeks ago we were talking about this team fighting for first place.
Yes.
In the American, and it's just so frustrating to see how they were so high up, but then fell so far down recently, and it's just silly. They're losing to teams that they shouldn't lose to. They beat ranked Memphis earlier in the season with a whiteout game, and just losing to teams that they really shouldn't lose to is just frustrating. And now we are up to our first break of the show, but there is another Temple team feeling a bit brighter this week. Don't go anywhere, we will be back in 90 seconds with Diane Richardson and company.
Kayla Turner.
Temple women's basketball was down south in Louisiana to go up against the Green Wave. The two teams started the day just a half a game separated in the AAC. Tulane at 8-4, Temple at 8-5. Into the Avron B. Fogelman Arena up against the Green Wave on the road. Down 9 and Temple starts moving in transition. Anissa Rivera is the woman down the court and she gets the bucket with the sweet lay. Into the second, and it's a 1-point game and a lack of marking, and it's an easy putback with the harm on the side. Into the third, and something you don't see too often, Jaleesa Molina blowing past her defender for a baseline reverse for the first bucket in the quarter. Temple opened the quarter with a 15-0 run as Kayla Turner makes a 3. But Tulane closes the quarter with a 15-8 run as Sharice Pittman makes one of her 2 threes from beyond the arc. Molina keeps it going for Temple as she drives down low and gets the quick finish with a trip to the line. Now in the fourth, a 12-point game, and Temple is just feasting out there. The Owls get it to go 73-56. Domination is the best way to describe it, and it came from that third quarter. Coming out the locker room, the Owls went on that 15-0 run. Tulane didn't score till the 4:34 mark in the third. Kayla Turner led the way with 22 and 11, but look at Jaleesa Molina, big body, down low, cleaning the glass with 16 and 15. Her 6th double-double with a career high in rebounds, but it wasn't just her with a high in rebounds. The Owls picked up a season high 54 rebounds as a team. The win moves the Owls into 4th place in the AAC. More on the standings coming up in a bit later.
Let's wind back the clocks. Earlier in the week, the Owls took on UAB at the Leah Corus Center. We'll pick it up in the second half. Owls up 9. Anissa Rivera swipes it away from Sarah Bershers. Rivera does it all herself on the coast-to-coast and 1. The Owls sure love themselves some coast-to-coast finishes. This time it's Tiara East who takes it the length of the floor and finishes with the filthy Eurostep. That faked me out. Owls lead by 15, but not for long. Sarah Bershers knocks down her second and final 3 of the game. Lead cut to 10. Jade Weathersby was UAB's go-to all game long, and she shows why right here with this beautiful spinning and 1 finish. Later in the fourth, Owls up 9. Kayla Turner puts the game out of reach and boosts the Temple lead to 11. High fives all around as Temple defends home court and picks up a huge league win. Jade Weathersby was everywhere for the Blazers. Weathersby finished with 18 points and 10 boards, good for her 5th double-double of the season, along with 2 steals and a block. Jaleesa Molina's impressive play continues. The Netherlands native had a double-double of her own, finishing with 17 points on 60% shooting and 11 rebounds. It was also her 5th double-double of the year. This game was a complete 40-minute performance from the Owls. After taking the lead 13-10 with 4:05 to play in the first, Temple never trailed again.
Just communicating with each other, like switching 1 through 5. That's what we did. Just being able to communicate to each other on dribble handoffs, ball screens, whatever action they did, we was right there, ready to guard.
We are crashing the boards, not waiting for it to come off, not standing and waiting, and that made the difference in the game today. I mean, 15 offensive rebounds. That's pretty good, and that's what we want to do. We've got to have our heads right and understand and be poised.
Now, last week, I thought the women's team was going to be a bit shaky. They were 1-4 in their last 5, but these past 2 games, they've turned it around. They dominated against 2 teams that they're so close to. Tulane and UAB in the standings are only a few games away from them and only places away from them. Those games mean so much, and that means that they're able to put up fight and dominate against competition similarly to their own. And this is coming from the inside. We've both talked about Jaleesa Molina today. She's been dominant, double-doubles in her past 2 games. She's been dominating inside, finishing great, but that rebounding presence. Players like Kayla Turner as well, both of them have such great rebounding presences, and they're shooting a little bit beyond the arc as well.
Yeah, but let's take a look ahead. Temple next up has Wichita State, just 3-11 in league play. Temple, you talked about how they're able to play against the better teams. They need to make sure that they don't play down to their competition.
Well, they're going to try and stay in that top 4 spot. With the women getting back in stride, of course, they are bringing highlights. And even in losses, the guys always give some flashy plays.
When we return, Gabriel and I will break down our top 5 plays of the week. We're back in 90. Another week has gone by, and that means even more highlights for Temple men's and women's basketball.
Pat and I are going to break down our favorite plays of the week from both teams. It's time for our top 5.
And at number 5, Gabriel, didn't we just watch this play? It's Anissa Rivera going coast to coast. They call it Sirius XM coast to coast radio. She brings it all the way up floor after the steal, count it, and the foul. Questionable call, doesn't affect the highlight nonetheless. But look at this defensive IQ. She reads the pass. She knows that it's going to be bobbled loose, and she swoops in, brings it all the way back up court. A lot of speed and a lot of spatial awareness on the finish. That's play number 5.
Yeah, not too sure about the foul call there, but a trip to the line is a trip to the line. Number 4 is going to be Steve Settle. We see him do this so often, blocking those passing lanes with his long wingspan. And you don't see too often a 6'10" guy moving that fast, except Giannis or maybe myself, actually. But an open lane for Steve Settle, and that's just way too easy. It's going to be an easy flush, showboating.
Well, easy there, Tiger. You're not Giannis. Play number 3, Shane Dezzoni. You drive to create for others. Look at this. Penetrates, looks out to a wide open Zion Stanford. That's way too much space. And a good offense gets a lot of paint touches. They get a paint touch there. Stanford wide open, too much space. That's play number 3.
And for number 2, it's going to be a team play, sharing the love, sharing the basketball around the whole team. 3 touches here, pump fake in the corner, and that's an easy dish in the middle, wide open. She's going to get double teamed, running down into the corner. She could have taken the corner 3, and it would have been an easy bucket. But no, she wants to do an even flashier play, gets double teamed to get her teammate wide open.
Well, good basketball is about passing up good shots for great shots. But how about a great shot here from Steve Settle? But an even better move. He fakes the handoff, hides it behind his back, rises up for the easy one-hand slam. Look at this. He turns his back to the defender, fakes the handoff to Mashburn. If we have any lacrosse fans here, it's like the hidden ball trick. But after seeing so many great plays, it's fitting that we highlight the best performances over the last week from each squad. Jamal Mashburn impressed in his only game since February 1st. He might not have shot very well, but he scored 19 points, tied for a game high, and he also dished out a season-best 6 assists. Kayla Turner is often associated with scoring. But despite being the second shortest Owl to check in against Tulane, Turner hauled in 11 rebounds for her first double-double of her college career. Those were our top 5 plays of the week. And as always, we'll be back next week with 5 more here on the video wall.
One thing about the Owls, it doesn't matter if they're going to win or lose, they are going to bring us some plays we are ready to highlight.
It is break time. Stick around because after the break, I will go into detail about the status of the men's and women's basketball teams with how they rank in the AAC. Don't go anywhere. Course and Session will be back in just 90 seconds. Welcome back. We've got updated standings from both the men's and women's sides of the AAC. And for Temple, we have both teams going in opposite directions. First, the men. The men's basketball team was tied at top in the AAC not too long ago. But this 4-game slide has put a dent in the Owls. They are currently 7th in the American Conference. The Owls sit just above Wichita State and South Florida. If the playoffs were to start today, Temple would play North Texas in the second round after a first-round bye. Memphis has maintained its spot at number 1 most of this season. The Tigers have just those 2 losses, with one coming from Temple back in January. Now to the women, where things are looking a bit better. The Owls are in 4th place after that weekend win versus Tulane. As we've mentioned in the past, the top 4 teams in the AAC get a bye in the first and second rounds. So there is a big difference between being 4th and being 5th. Right now, UTSA, North Texas, and South Florida appear to be the class of the league with about 3 weeks to go.
So, Brielle, we're about a month away from the conference tournament starting in Texas. On the women's side, do you have a dark horse that we need to watch out to sneak up in the standings?
I would say East Carolina. They currently have a record of 10-3 at home. They have a home game coming up on Saturday against North Texas, so they do have a chance to defeat North Texas.
So, East Carolina on the women's side, but what about the men? What about the other side? Who's your dark horse there?
I would say the men's team from Tulsa. They are currently 9th in the American Conference, tied with South Florida. They have a key player named Keyston Willis, and he's been averaging about 19 points in their last 2 games, so he does have a chance to increase them in the standings.
All right, Brielle, thank you so much for giving us that look on the standings. Now, apart from dark horses, obviously the number 1 team in the AAC on the men's side is going to be Memphis. They're the only ranked team, and they're just dominating consistently, especially on that defensive side. They're number 1 in the conference in defensive efficiency, and they have great 3-point shooters. PJ Haggerty, he's just a star for this team.
Yeah, one of the teams they did dominate was UAB. The Blazers, led by Andy Kennedy, won the AAC last year and brought back 80% of their production, including the reigning player of the year, Yaxel Lindeborg, who I think is the best player in the conference and statistically the most impactful player in the country.
And now looking at the women's side, South Florida has been on a tear. They're going on a crazy win streak, and they're second in the conference as well. But that is all we have time for today. Hopefully, when you see us back on the desk next Tuesday, the men's team will have regained its early season form.
In the meantime,
you can find us on all socials at Our Sports Update for all things Temple Athletics.
For everyone at Annenberg Hall, I'm Pat Dallahan, and he's Gabriel Linington. Thank you, and see you next week.